with the excitement and the hype building around the Callisto protocol, obviously, guys, it's never too early to start talking about the future of what we hope to be a long-withstanding franchise. That being said, the Callisto protocol, guys, is being dubbed as the Dead Space successor, which is awesome. I mean, or the spiritual successor, I should say. That being said, though, it's never too early, guys, to talk about the future of what we're hoping to be a long-withstanding franchise in the Callisto Protocol. This is a title, guys, that is definitely taking a lot of references from Dead Space and that universe. Glenn Schofield being, of course, the creator of Dead Space. And obviously, this is a title that is in the PUBG universe. And that's going to be something that's going to be really exciting to kind of experience as well. However, is this going to be a long-withstanding franchise, or is it going to be just a standalone game for the long foreseeable future? That is a huge question, guys, that I want to talk about in this segment of the show. Could this be a trilogy? Is a trilogy coming out of the Callisto Protocol? We know, guys, for the most part, games and game franchises come in threes, right? You get three, editions of a franchise, and then usually you'll either get continuations in the form of a following trilogy, or a lot of these developers will move on to other games and other IPs and such. The Callisto Protocol, to me, just from what we've seen, and we have only seen, guys, just obviously the initial teaser, and obviously the initial information from the Q&A that we got from Striking Distance Studios, this reminds me of what could be coming in the future, like what we saw from Dead Space. Dead Space got 3 games, guys, and obviously we're getting a remake coming. EA is bringing Dead Space back as far as from a remake perspective, but it got 3 games. The Callisto Protocol, I believe, is the next one that could very well be getting another trilogy. Now, obviously, guys, a trilogy will not happen if the Callisto Protocol doesn't do well. So it's going to be up to us, guys, really pushing this thing forward, whether we're creating content around the game, whether we are, obviously streaming on Twitch. So those are 2 huge ways to really help. But number 3, guys, and I think a lot of it's going to really be coming down to conversations, right, with the developers. We've got our Horror Gaming Universe Discord, guys. You guys can check that out in the description down below. There, guys, we talk about everything in the world of Gears of War, Quantum Error, and the Callisto Protocol. We talk about those universes and just getting conversation going, guys. And if you don't create content, you don't stream, supporting your favorite content creators, supporting your favorite streamers around these games is going to be absolutely massive. Because the Callisto Protocol, I believe, is going to be a massive game. I do. I think it's going to be a smash success. Now, take that with a pinch of salt, because obviously this is a single player story. So I think it's going to be a big horror title, but it's obviously going to be limited somewhat because it's not going to have other ways to connect with the game, like co-op modes, multiplayer modes, like some of these other big franchises out there. It's not there yet. Hopefully it gets there. We're just not there as of yet. And I think it's going to come down to, we want Striking Distance Studios to make the best possible product that we can get, guys. Get our hands on it, play this game a number of times, really just dive into this world and into the story, into the lore, and then give our feedback, though, to Striking Distance Studios about things that they could add moving forward in future iterations of the Callisto Protocol, being like the Callisto Protocol 2, or even just updating the Callisto Protocol, the first one, in the form of adding new modes, like a horde mode, like what we had from Gears of War, where you're going up against waves and waves of enemies, or, having PvP, where you're going up against other people across the world. Maybe they play as the enemies and you play as, the prisoners, or what, however you want to, consider it. It'd be really interesting to see a culture built around the Callisto Protocol, because we had it in Dead Space, and, like you can go on, Facebook, and there's Dead Space groups, guys, that have thousands upon thousands of people that are talking about Dead Space. And that's what it's gonna take is building a culture around the Callisto Protocol, which is very important. But could this be a long-withstanding trilogy? I do believe that there is somewhere down the pipeline an idea, initial concepts for a long-withstanding franchise here, that being at least 3 games, right? Or I should say, Callisto Protocol already being confirmed. You get these other 2, Callisto Protocol 2 and 3, or whatever they would be called. I'm sure there is a thought about those happening down the pipeline at some point or another. I think, guys, that not only is it on the developers and the publishers to get these things out, it's up to us, though, as the community to push these games forward, whether we're creating content, whether we're streaming, whether we're just having conversation about it on Discord, Reddit, and other places like that. That's where it's going to be very, very important, guys. And I think a trilogy is definitely something that could be happening in the future and something that could be happening down the pipeline, but it's really going to come down to us, guys, making this game a smash success. But with that being said, guys, I'd love to have some conversations with all of you in the comment section down below. Do you think we're going to get a trilogy here out of the Callisto Protocol, or do you think this is going to be a game that just stands on its own and then Glenn Schofield and Striking Distance Studios moves on to another game or another franchise altogether? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And for more of the Callisto Protocol content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. In this next segment of the show, I want to talk about, guys, everything that we want out of the Callisto Protocol. When I say we, guys, I'm going to give you my thoughts and opinions here, and some of you may share similar thoughts and opinions, some of you may not. Those of you, though, I would love to hear in the comment section down below all the things that you want to see out of the Callisto Protocol. So let's get into it. So, guys, I'm going to be giving you 5 things that I want to see out of the Callisto Protocol right at launch or just, down the line. And so coming in, guys, for me at number 1 is I really want the Callisto Protocol to be itself or be its own entity altogether. And what I'm getting at here, guys, is there's so much talk about the Callisto Protocol being the spiritual successor to Dead Space. And that's great. Obviously, Dead Space being one of my favorite horror games of all time, I want it to be its own thing, though. I want the Callisto Protocol to stand on its own, and I believe it will, guys. I mean, this is from the creators of Dead Space, which is absolutely incredible, and I want there to be a kudos to Dead Space. I want there to be things about it that are similar, that feel, similar to Dead Space, but I also want it to be its own thing altogether. And I think that's going to be really important for this to become its own franchise, essentially, altogether. And that's what I think is very, very important, that you have the thought of, the kudos to the past with Dead Space, but also how are we pushing the bar forward? Coming in, guys, at number 2. I really want there to be a variety of a number of different things here. Not so much locations, because I think what made games like Dead Space, games in the survival horror genre, so unnerving and terrifying wasn't so much the variety of locations. It was more so just those closed-in corridors. The scares were on another level, essentially. And this being, primarily where you're trying to escape the Black Iron prison. Obviously, guys, there's going to be some very, narrow corridors, I'm assuming, and things of that nature. But at the same time, I really want to learn a lot about the lore, about the story here that they're trying to tell, and about the things that are happening outside of the prison as well, are things that I really want to learn about as well. I want to learn everything I can about this world. Now, I also want there to be a variety of different enemies, which we obviously saw an enemy, come in the form of what looked to be kind of like a necromorph from Dead Space in the first trailer for Callisto Protocol. But I want to see a variety of enemies. I want to see a variety of characters as well that come into the fray as well. Whether we're talking about our main protagonist or other, characters that are out there, I want to learn as much as I can about this world. Coming in, guys, at number 3 for me is I think that it's a lot of times, and we talk so much on this YouTube channel about the future of gaming. We look ahead a lot of times. I really want Striking Distance. I'm sure there's been thought of, hey, we could make this into a long-withstanding franchise, but I want there to be a real focus specifically on making this the best possible game that it can be. The best possible immersive experience and terrifying experience that we could get, because I want this to be one of the scariest games ever made, guys. So I want there to be a real focus just on the Callisto Protocol. Not so much on, thinking, okay, the Callisto Protocol 2 and the Callisto Protocol 3. I want this to be the game that they're primarily focused on. Maybe there's a thought in the back of the mind, like, hey, we can make this into a long-withstanding franchise. Maybe the end of the Callisto Protocol leads us to the Callisto Protocol 2 in the future, which I'm really excited about. But make this the best possible game. We see time and time again, publishers as well as developers will make a game and they're already thinking ahead to the next one. And I think it's just really important that with something like this, where you are starting the foundations of a new franchise or a hopeful new franchise, you got to just focus on this one game. Coming in at number 4 for me, guys, this is a huge one that obviously they have said that they're not going to do this, but I'm hoping that they add it later, is co-op modes. I want to see, guys, co-op come into the fray some way, shape, or form. Now, look. When I say co-op modes, I'm not talking about the campaign. The campaign needs to say a single player experience, because obviously if you're with someone else, it kind of takes that tension, those scares away from the single player experience. So keep the single player experience the single player experience. But add co-op, so after you're done playing that single player experience a couple of times, you can play with your friends, going up against waves and waves of enemies in a PvE kind of perspective, like Gears of War's Horde mode, where you're going up against waves and waves of different enemies. I always thought that would be something that would be awesome for Dead Space. We never got that. I think that keeping it a single player experience is important, but also adding other modes moving forward is going to bring you back to the experience over and over again. Instead of going to other games after you beat the Callisto Protocol a couple of times, instead of moving on to another title, you stay in that universe. You stay in there by playing with your friends and going up against waves and enemies, and maybe even eventually adding other multiplayer modes would be really interesting as well. Keep the single player story, but maybe add other modes down the journey. And coming in, guys, lastly, at number 5. We're talking, the Callisto Protocol being a spiritual successor to Dead Space. One of the things I loved about Dead Space was the customization features in the game and how you could upgrade Isaac Clarke's armor and things of that nature. I would love to see this. Lots of customizable options for your character to bulk up your character, make your character absolutely awesome in this title. And maybe that can transfer over to the co-op modes eventually down the journey. Customizable options are that you're going to want to upgrade your armor, upgrade your weapons. Having those variety of weapons and things of that nature that are at your disposal would be absolutely awesome, guys. Having lots of customizable options is always a really awesome thing. But let me know, guys, what are the things that you want to see out of the Callisto Protocol? These are the five of the things that I want to see. What are some of the things you want to see? Let me know in the comment section down below. And for more of the Callisto Protocol content and videos, stay here with Zero TV.